Look, it's not you. You know, it's me. You're great. You have it going on. I mean, I just don't think we work well together. And I know what you're saying. You're like, hey, I'm a top 100 game on Board Game Geek. All time great. Everyone loves me. And I see it. I'm the problem. It's me, okay? It's not you. You're just one of 5 games that I think are great that I don't ever want to play again. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Murphy. I'm one half of the Brothers Murph. And yeah, it's time. We got to talk about some games that I can acknowledge are great. I've played these games. I've even enjoyed these games. And I'm done with them. Now, I'm not saying for sure these will never get played again, but these are games that I can acknowledge their greatness and acknowledge the time I had with them and just say, I don't need to play them anymore. There are different reasons. I have 5 games for you. I want to know yours, of course, in the comments below. If you like these kinds of videos, also, please subscribe. Turn on that bell icon so you get notifications for our new videos. And let's just rip off the Band-Aid and get into number 5 of the games that I think are great, but don't want to play anymore. So number 5 is an oldie and a goodie, and one that took a long time for us to actually finally try, and I admit and can see how this is such a classic. This is Lords of Waterdeep. This is a game that is kind of is seen as like the birth of like worker placement games, where you're going to put people out, you're going to gain different cubes and stuff. This is all set in the Dungeons and Dragons universe. So these different color cubes are like wizards and stuff. Theme be heavy on this one, and I think that's kind of where I bounce off Lords of Waterdeep a little bit. Like, again, I appreciate the foundation it set for so many games that came after. This game absolutely deserves its place kind of in the pantheon of greatness because it sort of created a whole genre of games that are among our favorite types of games. Worker placement games are always incredible, and this is a good game, but it just feels dated now. A lot of games have really kind of taken the ball, what Lords of Waterdeep maybe set out and gone further with it, including like thematic immersion, higher quality components, upgrades and stuff. It's just a game from its time, and that's not a problem. It's not like a fault of it. It's just what it is, and it feels a bit dated to play it now. We're like, you're doing quests and stuff. Like, no, this is straight up contract fulfillment. You're just turning in these colors to get these points, which I'm good. I'm fine with a dry game and stuff, but like, you have the Dungeons and Dragons universe to play with, and like, let me get little meeples of ogres and stuff or something to kind of bring it up a little bit instead of just these colorful cubes. It just feels like straight up kind of contract fulfillment, basic stuff. I like that there's more action spaces that come out during the game. You kind of can build things. It does cool stuff, but there's just newer games that do things that Lords of Waterdeep does, and they do it better, and they're newer, and they're nicer, and I'd rather play those games. Number 4 is another classic area control Viking set game. This is Blood Rage. Blood Rage, for me, falls into the category of the ship has sailed. The ship in the game has sailed, and I was left behind, and I'll never reach Yggdrasil and Valhalla. It's just not going to be for me. What I mean by that is this game really benefits repeat plays and investment in the game because there are cards that you are drafting that will inevitably be used in the battles that upcome during that round and later. And having really intimate familiarity with those cards is hugely beneficial. If you go into this game blind, it's your first play and you're playing against an experienced player, you are going to get rolled by that player because they just understand the cards, they understand the value of cards in specific situations so much better than you ever could. And that kind of goes for a lot of games, but this one particularly seems to punish you if there's an imbalance in experience with a certain game. In this case, Blood Rage. That card drafting, that knowledge of like, this is good in that situation, that one's good in this situation, it's just too late for me. I don't know those things. Everyone now who's still playing Blood Rage has been playing it for a long time. I just don't feel like I have an into that game anymore. And that's okay because it's not really my personal area control fighty type games. They're not where I gravitate toward anyway. So I'm happy leaving that one over there. I appreciate everything it's done. It's an awesome game. I can admit that. I just am bad at it. I am doomed to forever be bad at it. And I don't like the theming and what you're doing in the game enough to invest heavily, even though I know there's rich rewards to be reaped if you do. It's just not going to happen for me. Number 3 for me is Eclipse, or Eclipse Second Dawn for the Galaxy, which we have played both versions of. This is a big kind of space 4X exploration battle, get your ships built up and upgraded kind of game that for me always winds up with frustration, because with these types of games, this is a common thing. There's dice rolling, there is some amount of luck involved, and in Eclipse, it just always seems to feel a little extra punishing if you have bad luck. What I mean by that is, of course, if you're going in a battle, you're rolling dice, you can just roll all misses. You have to roll pretty high to hit. I have notorious bad dice luck, so that's a tough one. But there's also just like different kind of sectors of the galaxy you can go explore. And sometimes there's rewards you can win by fighting off like ancient aliens and stuff like that. And there's these tiles that give all sorts of different rewards. It might be a couple of resources, might be like literally an amazing ship that you just instantly get for free. That is my main problem, because every game I've played, I have never found one of those ships, and other people do, and they literally use that ship to wipe me out of the game. And where I struggle is like, that took no skill to acquire that specific tile. It wasn't that I played well and was rewarded with this specific thing versus a couple resource. What I got was random in relation to what I did to get the tile. And those kind of lucks then mixed with, I bring this whole armada of ships in to do a big battle and end up getting wiped out anyway because I can't roll a hit, is frustrating, considering that Eclipse takes a long time. I have to invest a lot of time, a lot of my day in playing to ultimately not gain a lot of reward. And it's not necessarily because I had bad strategy. I definitely think that, you know, I'm not the best strategist in those types of games either, but I'm just always like, well, why'd they find that cool thing? I never get a cool thing. I did all this work and lost half my fleet of ships. I got this terrible thing over here. The new version is nice because there's quality of life upgrades in terms of like dual layer boards, things to hold your pieces in place, and that is super nice. It doesn't fix the luck though. All that stuff is perfectly in place as always. And I was so disappointed when I played the new one to realize the things that I have gripes with, unfortunately, can't be changed with a dual layer board. Number 2 is a great game, and I realized that it's just not in the genre of games that I am drawn toward. This is Twilight Struggle. This is a classic, I'd say at this point is the classic war game. Of course, there are many, many more, many of which are very popular and stuff, but Twilight Struggle has been a fixture in the top 100, in the top 10, the top 5, the number 1 spot for a long time. It's been around. This one recreates the events of the Cold War. And with a lot of these war games, you can maybe change how history actually played out, and it might go in the favor of the Soviet Union and stuff. And you're playing out events, cards for their events and stuff, which are all real world events, which I think is super duper cool. I think that the structure of a lot of war games, what Twilight Struggle is doing is really neat. But again, it's one that you have to almost study the game. You have to really, you will be greatly benefited if you really know, I'm playing the Soviet Union, these types of cards are going to come out, these events are going to happen, and when to use those things. Almost like chess, where you can kind of memorize the game and the way it should be played out. I'm, of course, never going to get there. Nick and I just play too many different games all the time to ever get there. And what you're doing and fighting and the kind of war stuff and the intrigue is just not something I'm interested in. I don't like war. War is horrible. And it's just not going to be the thing that I want to delve into that often. And so the time I played it was incredibly tedious. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot of stuff to consider. Every move you kind of take in action is pretty important that you get it right. And of course, I'm not going to do that. So the game was just sort of, you know, I would do this thing and it'd make my life so much harder over here. And it just didn't inspire multiple plays. It is one, though, that I understand why it's great. I understand why people love it so much. The things it does, the way it's designed is brilliantly done. There's no question about that. And this whole section of gaming, wargaming and stuff, is really interesting, especially if you're a history buff, you want to get into things. I think it's an amazing area of gaming that is just not my cup of tea that I need to partake in. It's no disrespect for those who do. But Twilight Struggle for me was a one and done. We got rid of that game and I have never looked back. Last up on this list is a game that we played for a long time. It's been incredibly well supported. It's incredibly popular. It is Everdell. Everdell is a fantastic game, a fantastic kind of worker placement, tableau building, resource management game that, especially in the early days, Nick and I kind of thought of it as a Gateway Plus game. I no longer would agree with that statement. I think it's, again, if you know what you're doing in Everdell and you're playing against someone who doesn't, you're going to end your game 30 minutes later than that player is, because you know the synergies and ways to kind of extract as much as you can out of the game. That's one thing I don't love about Everdell, is the fact that people are going to end their games at different times. There are other games that do this. I don't think it's a deal breaker for games. It's just sometimes people can be playing for so much longer than other folks. And it kind of makes me sit here, if I'm in winter already, and I'm like, man, they got some good weather apparently, because it's still summer for them. It makes me kind of be like, what did I do so poorly? So that's one area that I'm like, I don't think it necessarily creates the best first impression at all times. Based on that, obviously it creates an amazing first impression in terms of look, presence, everything like that. The new collector edition is incredible and beautiful. And the other thing for Everdell for me that kind of stops me from wanting to get back into it is there's so much content for Everdell now that if I wanted to get into it and kind of catch up with content, there's a lot more financial investment that I would need to do. And I don't know if I have time for it. There is stuff I want to explore. And then the first expansion that came out and that we got, Pearlbrook, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was good. And so it kind of left a bad taste in our mouth, and this is what kind of stopped us from getting back into it. But I can't even wrap my brain around getting the collector super edition now. It's just so much content, that size box. I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to get into this. So again, I kind of feel at this impasse where I needed to have gotten on the train earlier if I was gonna ride it to the end. And I feel like I've missed it. And there's also just games that give me better feelings that I feel like I can teach as a step up worker placement game, as kind of, a step up from the most basic versions of a worker placement game. There's just other games that have kind of taken its place, and we sort of have been left in the dust of Everdell. And incredible world, amazing art, the collector's edition is so nice. And so for anyone that gets into that, you've just got a lot of good to love. But for us, Everdell, I'm kind of like, I'm done. I enjoyed it. We played a lot of it. I am satisfied with my experience, and I'm happy just sort of leaving it there for others to enjoy. So that's it. That's 5 games that I can fully admit are great, and I just never need to play them again. If I do come across these games, someone says, you better sit down and prove you wrong, you are going to play this again, you'll probably win that bet. I probably will play it again. I'm not staunchly opposed or anything, but I just am good. I'm set. If I never come across those games again, I'll be just fine. But I want to know for you, what are games that you can say this isn't because I hated it. These aren't games I hated, but they're games that are great. They didn't quite sing for you. They didn't quite hit, whatever it is. What are games that you can say I know this is great for other people, just not for me? That's kind of where we've lived with a lot of this list. I want to know those in the comments below. Until next time, everybody, I am Mike Murphy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. If you want to support the Brothers Murph, please consider our Patreon. We appreciate y'all very much. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching that video. What are some games that you can acknowledge are really, really, really good, outstanding masterpieces even, and yet you just never need to play them again? That's okay, you don't have to play everything. Want to give a big shout out to our channel sponsors, Restoration Games, Lucky Duck Games, and Board Game Geek, and give a big shout out to you for watching this video. Thank you so much. Have a great day.